The restaurant was noisy, filled with clinking glasses and laughter, but his eyes stayed on the tray wobbling in his tired hands. Daniel had been a waiter for years, but tonight felt heavier. Maybe it was because he had pulled a double shift, or maybe because his daughter, Emily, was waiting at home with a school project that he had promised to help her with. Every tip mattered, rent was late, and groceries were thin. Still, he wore a smile, because that's what waiters do. At the corner table, the CEO of Rainsworth Enterprises sat like a king at a throne. Mr. Rainsworth was known for his iron will and colder heart. His company employed thousands, but his reputation was harsher than any balance sheet. No one ever saw him soften, not even for his only child. His daughter, Clara, sat beside him, head bowed, hiding her face beneath strands of hair that refused to stay tucked behind her ear. The burned scars stretched across her cheek and neck, a reminder of the accident that had nearly taken her life when she was a teenager. She had survived, but the fire had stolen more than her skin. It had stolen her confidence, her laughter, her belief that she could ever be seen as beautiful. Every time she dared to step out, people's eyes lingered too long. Her father, proud and sharp, treated her like a weakness, a reminder of something he couldn't control. To him, she was fragile glass, to be hidden, not shown. Daniel noticed her the moment he set down the glasses of water. Not because of the scars, but because of how she seemed to shrink from the world. She avoided his gaze, but he caught the glimmer of music in her eyes as the soft melody from the restaurant's piano drifted across the room. He recognized the song. It was one his late wife had loved. Something stirred in him, an ache of memory and a pull of compassion. Later, when the tables had been cleared and the music swelled, Clara found herself standing near the edge of the floor. Couples began to dance, laughter spilling from them like champagne. She stood frozen, wishing for courage she didn't believe she had. And then Daniel, balancing a tray against his hip, caught her standing alone. He hesitated. He was just a waiter. She was the daughter of a man who probably signed paychecks larger than Daniel's entire yearly earnings. But then he thought of Emily, of how he wanted his daughter to know that kindness sometimes mattered more than pride. He set the tray down and walked over. "Would you like to dance?" His voice was gentle, respectful. Clara blinked, startled. "Me?" She glanced at her father, whose eyes narrowed, disapproval etched in every line. "Yes, you," Daniel said, smiling faintly. "But only if you want to." Her heart thudded painfully. She had dreamed of this, being asked, being seen. For years, she had imagined someone extending a hand without pity. Her scars burned under her father's glare, but something in Daniel's eyes, the way he looked at her as though she wasn't broken, made her whisper, "Okay." The room quieted as whispers spread. The CEO's daughter was dancing, with a waiter. Clara's hands trembled as he led her to the floor, but the music lifted her, and Daniel's steady presence calmed her fear. He didn't flinch at her scars, didn't look away. He guided her gently, like she was simply a woman, not a fragile secret. For the first time in years, Clara let herself smile. Her father's jaw tightened. Mr. Rainsworth felt something he had not felt in decades, helplessness. His daughter, the one he kept shielded from the world to avoid shame, was now the center of attention. And it wasn't pity she was receiving, it was admiration. People saw her differently, not because of him, but because of a stranger who had nothing to lose. Pride curdled inside him, but beneath it was a flicker of guilt. The song ended, and the applause startled Clara. Tears filled her eyes, but not from shame. She bowed her head and whispered to Daniel, "Thank you." From that moment, everything changed. But change does not come without challenge. Mr. Rainsworth forbade Clara from ever speaking to the waiter again. He called Daniel, a man beneath her, someone unworthy of standing near his daughter. Clara retreated again, her old fears clawing back, but the memory of that dance burned brighter than the scars. She had felt alive, human, seen. For the first time, she questioned her father's authority. Meanwhile, Daniel struggled in his own world. Emily's school fees were overdue, and one landlord threat away from eviction kept him awake at night. Yet he couldn't shake Clara from his thoughts. Not because of her beauty, but because of her bravery. She had stood up in front of a crowd despite her fear, despite the world's cruel whispers. One afternoon, Clara slipped into the restaurant alone. She asked for Daniel, her hands shaking. "You risked a lot, dancing with me," she said. "I didn't see it as a risk," Daniel replied softly. "I just saw someone who deserved to dance." Her throat tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. She began to visit often, sometimes just to talk. She learned about Emily, about the struggles of a single father who had lost his wife but refused to give up. Daniel learned about her loneliness, her pain at being hidden away like a flaw in her father's perfect empire. They found comfort in each other, though the shadow of her father's pride loomed over them. The challenge came when Mr. Rainsworth found out. At a grand company gala, he made his disapproval known in front of everyone. "You think you can tarnish my family name with some waiter?" he thundered, his voice echoing across the hall. Clara froze, humiliation crushing her. Daniel stood nearby, hands clenched. Every eye was on them. Daniel could have bowed his head, could have walked away. But then he thought of his daughter, of the lesson she deserved to see in the man she called her hero. So he stepped forward. "With respect, sir," Daniel said, voice steady though his heart pounded, "your daughter doesn't need protection from the world. She needs freedom to live in it. She is stronger than you give her credit for. Stronger than any of us." A gasp rippled through the crowd. Clara's eyes widened, her chest aching with something she had long buried, hope. Mr. Rainsworth's pride cracked that night. It wasn't Daniel who shattered it. It was Clara, standing tall beside the man her father had tried to dismiss. She lifted her chin, meeting the stares without flinching. "Father, I will not hide anymore. Not for you, not for anyone." The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time, she felt the chains of shame fall away. The road wasn't easy after that. Clara faced criticism, gossip, and her father's cold distance. Daniel fought battles with bills and exhaustion. But in those struggles, they built something real. Clara volunteered at burn survivor groups, sharing her story and inspiring others to see themselves as more than scars. Daniel worked tirelessly, but now with Clara's quiet encouragement and Emily's laughter, the weight felt lighter. Over time, even Mr. Rainsworth softened. Watching his daughter command a room with dignity, he realized his pride had blinded him to her courage. And though he never admitted it aloud, he knew it was a simple waiter who had taught him the hardest lesson of all: strength isn't about control, but about love. Years later, when people asked Clara how she found her confidence again, she would smile and say, "It started with a dance. One song, one hand that saw me, not my scars, not my father's name, just me." And Daniel, whenever Emily asked why he had dared to stand up to a powerful man, would answer, "Because kindness is braver than fear." And sometimes, it only takes one choice to change everything. The story of the single dad waiter and the CEO's burn-scarred daughter became more than whispers in a restaurant. It became a reminder that dignity is not bought with wealth, nor broken by scars. It is chosen, every time someone dares to dance when the world says they shouldn't. In the end, what began as a song that broke a father's pride became a melody that healed two hearts, and a lesson that no scar, no struggle, no title, can silence the simple truth: everyone deserves to be seen, to be loved, and to be free.